you will see that there are headphones, and that is where you will find your translation. English on channel 1, French on channel 2, and German on channel 3. Also, welcome to everyone who's watching on our live web feed. We have got ourselves live streamed as well. And if you look at your program, you will see the actual website up here on it to find us for web streaming. We've also got a hashtag for Twitter, hashtag professional card. So we hope there will be lots of comments and questions coming in from Twitter, which we'll bring up during the course of the day. So, to begin the day, we will hear 3 presentations from the European Commission. Our first speaker is Irmfried Schwimmann, Deputy Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, DG Growth, who will open this morning.
A very warm welcome also from my side to this workshop. Many thanks, Diana, for the kind words of introduction. Now, first year of EPC, I think this is end of the alert mechanism, so this is really something which is giving us a lot of opportunity to see whether it works or not, and this is why we are actually here today. So, a warm welcome to all of you. I've met some of you about a year ago when we had the workshop in Amsterdam in June last year in the context of the Conference on Safe Mobility. And as I said, the aim of this workshop is really to look back at the experiences of the operation of the European Professional Card Procedure, of the operations of the alert mechanism since the launch on 18th of January 2016. And this is a meeting where we hope to hear from you, because you are the ones in the forefront of making it work. You are the ones who actually know what's working, what's not working, and what we can make better, how we can improve, how we can advance the processes further, I would say, within the current legal framework. But I think there is still a lot to be learned from your experiences on the ground, and we're very much looking forward to hearing from you. Now, maybe one step backwards. Why do we do all that? You know very well that within the Juncker Commission, one of our main priorities is to create more jobs, to create more growth. That has been developed further in the single market strategy and also in the services package that we have adopted this January. Now, professional qualifications are a very important part of that. It's because 22% of the EU working population needs some kind of professional qualification to be able to do their job. That's 47 million people overall, so this is huge in terms of quantity, and this is huge in terms of potential also that we have in this internal market. So facilitating a safe mobility of professionals is one of the core issues in the single market, but there are still difficulties to do so. Especially for service providers who want to offer their services cross-border. There were also multiple calls from the European Parliament, from the European Council, to address the remaining obstacles that are still there when our professionals want to offer their services cross-border. So we are working on different issues in that context, and the European Professional Card clearly is one of them. So the EPC tries to accommodate the legitimate expectation of professionals to have their qualifications recognized quickly and without unnecessary administrative hassle when they do move between countries. The alert mechanism, on the other hand, is the other side of the coin, if you want. It's there to prevent abuse, it's there to prevent fraud by unreliable professionals that could put our citizens in danger. But we are also looking at the requirements in a more general way. We want to make sure that member states introduce only professional regulations that are justified, that are proportionate. So we have been coming forward with what we call the proportionality test to make sure that legislation in our member states are keeping within this proportionate, within this justifiable sphere. And we also have issued reform recommendations for the member states on specific professions where we think that there might be room for improvement on the ground. Now, let's maybe focus a bit also on what's very new, what we have been trying to introduce with the EPC, which is very new, because the vision we're working towards is a single market that is fully operational on the ground for European citizens, for European consumers, for our professionals. And to make this happen, we're introducing or discussing innovative tools to support that goal. So what we're trying to do today also is to see what your reflections, what your experiences are with the European Professional Card, with the alert mechanism. You all know, because you are the ones who are operating on a daily basis, is that the EPC is introducing very new ways of working together in this digital age. It's innovative that allows to facilitate further professional mobility. It's groundbreaking because it's the first EU-wide digital procedure that helps professionals to get their qualifications recognized. It's an electronic certificate together with a standardized workflow implemented through the Internal Market Information System, the IMI. And as I said, on the other hand, the alert mechanism is there to prevent abuse and fraud, to ensure that patients, consumers are protected, whilst on the other hand facilitating mobility for professionals across the European Union. So the electronic exchange of information under this mechanism is also based on IMI. And Martin will provide you more details, more information on these two elements of our initiative and on our views, how these initiatives have actually been picked up on the ground. But I would also like to stress the importance of your work on the EPC in that context and on the alert mechanism, because it has a significant impact on how we are approaching electronic procedures in general in the European Commission. For example, the EPC is among the first EC procedures to apply the only once principle approach, where professionals only need to upload information in certain data documents once in their EPC profiles, and these informations can be reused for the following applications. So what's also very, very positive, and this is underlining the collaborative approach that we are trying to foster even more, is that you and we, the member states and the Commission, are working together with the users, with the stakeholders, to identify areas where the implementation of the once-only principle would bring the most immediate benefits. It is estimated that extending the once-only approach to the European level could result in annual net savings of as much as 5 billion euros per year. So that's a lot of money that we're talking about. Now, the EPC is also a model for further work. For instance, 2 weeks ago, the Commission adopted the proposal for a single digital gateway, which will allow citizens, which will allow businesses to have a single online access point to information, to administrative procedures, to assistance services in the areas covered by the internal market rules. With that proposal, we are trying to propose the introduction of electronic procedures in new areas that are important for citizens and for businesses who are wanting to operate cross borders. That proposal also builds on the experience gained with the points of single contacts with the European Professional Card. It recognizes the important roles of the national assistance centres under the Professional Qualifications Directive. Now, before concluding, a big word of appreciation. The appreciation because of how professionals, how stakeholders, how you have been engaged in that process. I think I can say that professionals' engagement, the interest in the EPC went beyond all our expectations. By the end of March 2017, we had more than 2,500 EPC applications and more than 1,000 EPCs issued. That was also thanks to the professional organizations who worked closely with us, who took their fair share in spreading the words about the EPC. And we would also like to acknowledge and thank for the quick engagement of the national authorities, the competent authorities, the IME and professional qualifications coordinators, and the national assistance centres with these new procedures that made it possible to have such a success after only a bit more than a year of the operation of the EPC. Now, during the day today, you will have the chance to hear the views of some of these stakeholders directly. We also see that national competent authorities exchanged information within the alert mechanism in a very high number of cases. More than 13,000 alerts were sent off were sent by the end of March. And that, again, strengthens the framework of the safe professional mobility. We continue to work very closely with our stakeholders to further improve these initiatives. We're always there to listen to constructive ideas, to explore issues further. We're very grateful for the fact that 181 professional organizations and national authorities took the time to respond to our survey. And Andras will share the first results of this survey a little later today. This was very useful because this is really providing us with very, very useful ideas, inputs already now on the way forward. And we also trust that the discussions today will help us to further improve the use of the EPC, the use of the alert mechanism tools further. I encourage you therefore to actively participate. I don't think I have to have any qualms about that, seeing how numerous you are coming here today as well. I wish you a very successful, a very fruitful workshop today, and look forward to hearing from Martin and from Andras. Thank you very much.
Irmfried, thank you very much indeed for your welcome. And as you know, our second speaker, also from DG Growth, will expand upon the alert mechanism, which operates within the internal market information system, all there to facilitate mobility and prevent abuse and fraud. So our second speaker is Martin Frohn, Head of Unit, Professional Qualifications and Skills. Martin.
Thank you, Diana. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Irmfried for the words of introduction. The bigger picture, as you have seen and heard, this initiative that has been around for 2 years now in working is a part of the overall attempts of the Commission to make life easier for professionals, but also for public administrations, and by introducing as much as possible innovative tools using electronic means and modern e-government approaches. I will go into a little bit more detail than Irmfried about what we have seen so far in the context of the implementation of the European Professional Card and of the alert mechanism, and see and show you where we are with the work on this and where it stands. Now, of course, you all know, and much of what I will present to you for many of you will be, I think, known, but it's always good to put things into a context and a perspective. So this, the introduction of the European Professional Card, the EPC, and the alert mechanism were core issues of the modernization in the directive that we made together with the Parliament and the Member States in 2013. The directive was adopted in October, came into force in January, and we have had the deadline of implementation on the 19th of January 2016. And on that date, as you can see, the 18th of January 2016, the EPC and the alert mechanism were operational. They are two instruments that belong together. They're closely related. They ensure safety, but they also facilitate mobility. As Irmfried was saying, these are two sides of the same coin. It is important for the Commission that we pay the due attention to either of these two aspects, and what we do is actually at the same time helping Member States to implement the directive, helping professionals to move cross-border, use the internal market freedoms that are enshrined in the treaty and that are their rights, that are their benefits coming from the EU, and at the same time make sure that those who use that freedom do not abuse that freedom and create dangers. As you also all know, and living in the land of Magritte, where things are not what they appear to be, the EPC is not a card. It's not a plastic card. That was the idea in the beginning, that one should work towards a plastic card that professionals could carry with them and show if necessary. But what we have opted for is, and in the end the legislator has worked towards, is an electronic procedure that facilitates the administrative procedures that people have to go through when they want to, as I said, exercise their freedom of movement in the EU. It is a streamlined procedure. It works via electronic means. It's a full electronic procedure, and it is based on the well-functioning IMI system. We have a number of colleagues from the unit that deals with the IMI more generally. The cooperation between member states is based on this module. It's one of the, I would say, even gigantic successes that we have had in Europe and that have brought administrations more closely together. And of course, we were using this system also in this context because it allows also for fast and easy cooperation between member states authorities, and this is the first time we use it also with the direct access for professionals to use that system to carry out the procedures. There are a number of benefits, I would hope, but I'm under no illusion that there will also be some negative remarks, and they're good because they help us improving the system, but I would hope that one of the results of this day will be that you share the positive experience and you see what this actually can bring. When we discussed the introduction, in particular the area, the scope of professions to be covered, I remember still we had quite some skepticism between member states as regards the additional burden that such a system would create, in particular for those member states that would not regulate a profession but would have to indeed hook up to the system and provide certain, if you want, services as the home state authority for their professionals who want to move to a member state in which the profession that they exercise is regulated. So there were a number of hesitations, I would say, as regards additional burden for administrations. I would hope that also, and we will have some examples in this regard, that also those member states who do not regulate a profession have now found it at least possible and not too burdensome to work together with the member states in which the profession is regulated in the context of the professional card. We've put some of the benefits that we think on this slide. You can see it. It's comprehensive. It covers the totality of the procedures. It gives a clear overview of what professionals have to comply with, but also what authorities can ask for and the information that they can legitimately expect from applicants. It is, and this has always been a hallmark of IMI, it's been a facilitation tool for communication between the member state administrations. It works in different languages. It has an automatic translation system and works with forms which are pre-defined and which are available in all the working languages of the member states. There are clear deadlines. There's a timer in IMI that reminds authorities of the clear deadlines. I mentioned already the cooperation between home and host state, which is based on this electronic tool. In doing and in strengthening this cooperation, it does, we hope at least, and I think from the first feedback informally that we have received, it has indeed done that. It increases trust between the member states and the administrations. And very important, certainly when we designed the whole instrument, was that it had to comply with data protection rules, which I'm glad to say it does, based on the views of the European Data Protection Supervisor on this front. There are benefits for professionals, of course. Transparency works in their favor. They know what they are confronted with. Accessibility, all these procedures are easily accessible via central portals. You can fill in your applications from the comfort of your home. So this is, of course, one of the advantages of electronic procedures in general. Communication is facilitated. Again, language issues are taken care of, in particular by the fact that you are going to your home state authorities as a professional, which, I guess, speak your language. You have simplified reapplications. There are certain limitations in terms of the reusability of information or the application of the EPC for more than one member state, given the specificities and the differences between the member states' regulation. But what we have done is, even though you need to have an EPC for the different member states where you want to go, we will, and we have still, will facilitate further the possibility to reuse information and documents that you have already submitted on the occasion of your first application. And of course, then data protection also protects the applicant in this regard. The first year of the EPC, we also try to be transparent. Information, statistics you can find on the website. We have, in the beginning, put together a communication campaign with the help of our communication colleagues. We've involved the professional associations in the member states. We had a video, and you can see 11,000 views on YouTube. That is not very much in the overall scheme of things when you look at other, maybe more interesting videos, but in terms of what the Commission has produced, it's actually not so bad. I think we're in the top 5 of the Commission videos as regards public interest. So we're a little bit proud of that also. We have seen, and this is the main, of course, key to success, we have seen significant interest from the professional side. We have seen actually more interest than we had expected. We are by nature, as officials, a little bit pessimistic about this, but we have been positively overwhelmed and surprised by the interest and by the take-up that professionals have made and have used the card and the applications. It has exceeded our expectations to the point that it has created more work than we had actually planned, which has maybe also had sometimes a little bit an effect on improving the system, working on technical details. This is the price, if you want, that we had to pay for the success that was a little bit unexpected. And we are very, very happy, and I have to say this, and that's not empty flattery, with the involvement and the way we cooperate with the national authorities. That has been really very, very pleasant and marked by the joint attempt to make this system work and to make this a good tool. Some figures, as you can see, we have more than 2,500 EPC applications. Actually, as we speak, we will possibly have a couple hundred more because the data are from March 15th. So we have already had 2 more months with the respective number of applications. I guess Zoltan knows it all, he nods. So I guess when I say a couple of hundred, I'm safe. It'll be a couple of hundred. They are nicely spread between the professions when you take into account the number of professionals that exercise in the respective professions that we cover their trade. Then, of course, the numbers cannot be even. That's normal. But it has, as we have seen, a quite nice spread between all these professions that shows that we think that, and I hope you can agree, we have made a good selection for the first wave of professions to be covered by the EPC. This is the statistics on the EPCs that were issued. You can see it's less than half of the EPC applications. There are plenty of reasons for this. It's not actually a bad success rate. There are quite actually a large number of EPC applications that are withdrawn. There are a number that are, of course, also rejected because there are documents missing or they're on hold. And, of course, there is the timing issue. So usually member states do indeed use the time that they have, the deadlines that they have under the EPC. And that means also, of course, that there is always a time lag between the applications submitted and the EPCs issued. But having 1,000 EPCs issued is not a bad balance at all. As I said, and as Irmfried said, there is the other side of the coin, the safety issue. The safety issue in terms of mobility, very relevant, of course, for health professions, is taken care of by the alert mechanism. This is also a first time. It is a tool that allows quick alerts to be sent to the member states. Quick meaning within 3 days, which is very, very short and has already been also by some member states indicated as being maybe too short. But I think in the interest of safety of patients and consumers, this was important that we have quick reactions and quick actions if there is a problem. There are 2 elements to it. One is the restriction or prohibition of exercising the profession that's relevant for the health and child-related professions. And then there is another module that deals with fake diplomas, which applies to all the professions to make sure that we detect people who fraudulently try to use the fundamental freedom, the directive, to get their foot into an activity somewhere else in a member state by using fake diplomas. Also there, of course, strong data protection safeguards. I think this is, again, an example of where we have tried and I think achieved to a certain degree to strike the right balance between protection of data, protection of public interests, of safety of patients and consumers. This is the number of alerts. We have seen a very uneven, and has evened out a little bit over the last couple of months. We have seen a very uneven take-up of this one. Some member states haven't been very active, others very, very little active, even not active at all. It's still not quite even. I'm sure we will come to it when we discuss the alert mechanism, but at least we see that also there's a broader range of member states that actually actively use the system. It has also brought to light considerable differences between the way member states deal with problems that lead to suspension authorizations for health professionals in particular, which is also reflected, of course, in the numbers that you see between the member states. With this, I will stop, possibly already too long. Andras will give you more about the recent feedback exercise. This recent feedback exercise is part of the ongoing monitoring and evaluation of this tool. We will use this feedback and also this conference and the work that we have done in the statistics to come up with a more formal assessment of how the EPC has worked, which, as I remember, was a strong interest and demand by many of you in many member states, and of course the Commission is happy to comply. With this, I wish us all a very fruitful, interesting day and lots of good discussions. Don't hesitate to be critical, but it wouldn't hurt if you think it is justified, if once in a while there was a nice word for those who have worked on it, our IMI colleagues, Andras, Alma in particular. So I wish you a good day and thank you very much.
Martin, thank you very much. So a very positive note to start on from the Commission, looking back over the first year of the EPC and the alert mechanism. They've also been surveying opinion, finding out from a wider range of views what everybody thinks about it. And Andras Sigmund has been leading the team looking at the survey and finding out about it. Here are his results.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the nice introduction, and thank you very much for Irmfried and Martin for setting yourself the scene. Then my job is much easier. I don't have to go into details, neither on the EPC, neither on the alert mechanism. But I can now focus on basically your reaction and summarize for you what you were telling us as first experiences and first results on both of these procedures. To give you a small background, but I'm very sure that most of you know it already, we had an open survey online between middle of March until the beginning of May. It was available in all EU languages because we wanted to make sure that everyone can express their views and we can get as many feedback as possible. This survey was targeting actually the competent authorities and also the professional organizations which are directly involved in the implementation of the EPC. We wanted to actually receive feedback from the ones who are using. So this is really something which is focusing on what we put in place, how it worked in the first year, and we have received very good feedback and very interesting feedback from the ones who are actually using and implementing the system. And as Martin said, this survey was not a one-off exercise. This is really part of our continuous evaluation. We are monitoring the functioning of the system from the beginning, and we are providing as many support as possible, both from our side, but also from the IMI team. And you are pretty sure in contact with both of us. So you know that this was not something which happened only once to get an official feedback, but we are taking the results of this survey very much into account of our evaluation. To give you the general results, Irmfried already mentioned that 181 stakeholders took their time and took their effort to respond, and I would really like to thank you for this. This was a very high number, and this was something which provides us a very even core of views. So this is something which we can base our very solid analysis on. We also received one response offline, and we received several position papers, which of course we will take into account when drawing up our assessment later on. You know probably, or if you don't know, I will be able to tell you that the survey itself was organized in 4 sections. We had the first section, Section A, which was a general section, basically details of the respondents, which was obviously filled in by all the 181 respondents. And then the respondents could choose according to their capacity and interest which sections they chose. There was one section on the EPC by the public authorities. This was Section B. There was one section also on the EPC looking for the views of the professional organizations. This was Section C. And there was Section D, which was focusing on the alert mechanism. You can see the numbers of stakeholders responding to each of the sections. Obviously, one stakeholder could potentially answer to one or more sections as well, if we take into account sections B and D. If we look at the respondents, we have a very good coverage both from the professional organizations and both from the public authorities side. We had 119 public authority who responded to this survey, and we had 62 professional organizations who responded. These can be professional organizations on national level or professional organizations which are working as an umbrella and representing the profession on European level. So we had received feedback from both. If we look at the geographical coverage, this was even more impressive because we could receive feedback from all EU 28 member states. So again, I have to say how grateful we are for you taking the time to respond. And especially we received a high number of responses from Romania. We received a high number of responses from Poland, Ireland, and Denmark as well. So you will be not surprised that speakers of these countries will participate in the panels later on. So you will be able to hear their views also directly. If we look to what competent authorities thought of how the EPC is functioning and how it was functioning in the first year, we could see that all the 5 EPC professions were represented in the responses. We received also responses from national coordinators or assistant centers as well. And we could see that their views on how they think how the functioning of the EPC was a success, was it actually easy to use, was quite positive. If we look at the numbers, the big blue part was saying that they had some difficulties in the beginning, but they were satisfied with the overall experience. This was 28 competent authority who responded. And we had 10 authority who was even more enthusiastic and said that it was actually a very intuitive and easy to use tool, so they didn't have difficulties to engage with it. We had also 10 authorities who found that it was not easy to use, but I'm pretty sure that after Zoltan at the end of the day will explain you what are the new developments, this number will go much more down. So we are very positive on this. There was on the questionnaire quite many questions, and we looked for your views on many issues. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take probably the whole day. But on the other hand, we wanted to pick up issues which might come up also in the panels later on, and which are also quite interesting, or on the other hand, are making us think that there are some issues which we need to work on more. And one of the issues amongst these are the fees. So we were asking quite many questions on how fees are applied in the member state, and also how fees are calculated. And it was on the positive side very reassuring to see that 59% of the respondents were not asking fees. But when we were looking on the countries who are actually applying fees, the balance was not so positive. And I think the most striking number of responses were coming from the countries which are applying fees, but when we asked them how do you establish these fees, they were just saying that the fees are set out by law and has nothing to do actually with the actual cost of the administration. So this is something which is a very important takeaway for us, and we certainly will continue discussions on the fees, also in the group of coordinators, but also more specifically with the member state concerns. And I'm pretty sure that the issue of fees will come up also during the discussions of today. When we asked member states who apply fees to contrast their level to the fees of the traditional recognition procedures, this probably because they lack the analysis of actual cost. We could see that 25 member states said that they have equal fees comparing to the traditional recognition procedures. Sorry, not 25 member states, 25 respondents. And 3 of them said that the EPC fees were even higher. So this is something which I think we will have to revisit and we will have to discuss further. And probably you will also have some views on it when we have the panel discussions today. If I take the general remarks of the authorities, there were equally a lot of issues that they appreciated, and they were pointing out some issues that we have to work more to have a better user feedback. They appreciated the IMI absolutely as a reliable and secure platform to exchange information. They appreciated also how structured the procedures are. It was also clear for the authorities what to do. And it was also very positive to hear that they found that the IMI is the right platform to communicate between the authorities and communicate with the professional as well. And they also appreciated the support they could get internally from the national IMI coordinators or the professional qualifications coordinators, and also from the commission services and in particular the colleagues working in the IMI team. What the competent authorities signaled as issues where there is place for improvement is the need to provide more legal guidance, and we are absolutely open for this. On the other hand, we want to be sure that what we are discussing with our coordinators, with our national experts in the group, actually reaches the authorities. because the particular issue they pointed out on the maximum list of documents was quite a big hit in the group of coordinators. I think we had 7 or 6 meetings dedicated to this. Most probably not all the discussions arrived up to the national competent authorities level. So we have to make sure that these information are accessible for all the actors. And they also pointed out some improvements that could be possible in IMI as regards the translations. If we go to the professional organization side, we have again a very good coverage on all the 5 EPC professions. And when we asked about their overall feedback, what the members were thinking about the EPC, we received very good result. The big yellow part was saying that they received only or mostly positive feedback from the members. The gray part represents the professional organizations which received both positive and negative ones, and the red part shows which the professional organizations who received mostly or only negative feedback from their members. As regards the general remarks, it could be appreciated very much that how easy it is to generate the certificate, this electronic certificate Martin mentioned, from the EPC procedure from the IMI system itself. They very much appreciated the Your Europe website and that it provides clear information for citizens, and that there was also a possibility to check what are the documents and what are the fees which can be expected from the professionals throughout the procedure. And also they mentioned the importance of communication. On the more concerned side, what they pointed out is that actually when the applications went through, they received feedback that professionals were asked to provide much more documents throughout the procedure than what was required from them according to the simulator. They also mentioned the issue of the fees, so they striked it as a problematic area that fees are sometimes a bit too high. And they also mentioned that after the EPC is issued, there are still additional requirements to complete by the professionals, and in some cases these requirements were quite heavy. If I turn now to the last point about the section D, which looked for your views on the alert mechanism, we received 95 replies, and many of the authorities were engaging in more than one alert module. So the most engagement we saw on the prohibition restriction of health professionals, naturally. Then afterwards on the falsified diplomas, and then also we had quite a number of authorities who were concerned with the education of minors alerts. On the general overview of what these competent authorities think about the alert mechanism, 44% of them found it very intuitive and easy to use. 35% said that it had some difficulties but was happy with the overall experience. And just a small margin, 21%, found it very difficult to use. But we hope that with more explanation, with more guidance we can provide, these numbers will go even downer. And also I would point to the general remarks, which authorities appreciated the cooperation and that the contribution of the alert mechanism to the safe mobility of professionals. They found that it actually works as a quick warning mechanism, so it is basically what was the purpose of introducing it. And they also appreciated very much the search functionality of IMI, so that this is basically a repository as well, where authorities can go back and check and consult if they have an issue or an inquiry about a professional. What authorities pointed out as a place for improvement is also on some operational developments, also meaning the translations, and that they would like to receive more information on what we are sharing, what we are discussing in the group of coordinators. So we received quite many responses, which suggested that the national competent authorities are actually not aware of the information exchange we have in the group of coordinators. So by coming to the end of this introduction, I would again thank you very much for your responses. Let me reassure you that we will publish all the responses according to the rules on our website. And also we will come back to you later this year with our own analysis on the responses of this survey and on our general views on how these procedures were taken up. So thank you and wish you a very successful day.
Well, thank you very much indeed to the Commission for setting out the stalls so clearly at the very beginning of the day and their very positive image of the EPC. And it's time now to open up the floor to you during our panel discussions, because we want to hear what you think about it, your experience of it, the questions that you might want to put to the panel about everything coming forth. So let me invite our panel up onto the stage. Our first panel, please, if you could, that would be great. We will have roving microphones, which will be moving across. If you want to speak or you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, catch my attention, and we'll be able to move the microphones to you so that you can interact with everyone who is on the panel. This panel, we're looking at the first year of the European Professional Card, how the different challenges are being addressed. The people on the panel have been working with it. Some represent government bodies, some represent professional bodies, but all of them, very, very importantly, have direct expertise and experience. They've built up a level of expertise which is very useful for us all here today as we review the first year of working of the EPC. So let's get everybody seated down, and I will introduce you to them. We have 5 speakers. Have we got everybody there, Alberto? Right? Excellent. Let me introduce you to them so you know who they are. Immediately beside me is Alberto Iorala, coordinator from the International Federation of Mountain Guides Association. Next, we have Heinrich May, IMI Internal Market Information System Coordinator for Oberpfalz, a regional authority in Germany. Next is Danielle Malia from the National Commission for Further and Higher Education in Malta, so we'll get the view from Malta from her. Next is Gloria Nistal-Rosique from the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sport in Spain. And at the end, we have Roland Krups, who's first vice chairman from the European region of the World Confederation for Physical Therapy. So these are our people who have had direct experience, and we want them to explain the challenges that they have met and so on in dealing with the EPC during its first year. As I say, do indicate to me when you want to come in. We'll move the microphones around and we can have a very open discussion. The more open we can be, the better, because that is much better feedback for the Commission on how everything is working. So Danielle, we'll start with you, and if we can look at the example of Malta and hear the experience of a small country like Malta dealing with the EPC. Is it first, would you say, widely recognized in Malta?
Well, I wouldn't really describe it as widely recognized. I don't think it really applies here in the sense that we had a total of 13 applications spanning 3 professions, being the physiotherapist, the pharmacist, and the nurses, 8 of which were home applications. The number may seem small, but given the size of the country and the population, and given that historically cross-border movement in these professions wasn't substantial, the number is actually quite good. And actually, I would expect this to increase in the future.
What about the professions themselves? Did you feel that they were agreeable to the introduction of the EPC?
Yes, actually, they were very supportive and they were very agreeable. They like it.
Did they feel there was a need for it?
Yes and no, in the sense that given the numbers for cross-border movement weren't that great, there weren't big numbers. This is just an alternative system, and it provides options for individuals.
What about its accessibility online? How did that work?
That wasn't an issue at all. It was easily accessible online, and obviously, it's a bit of a learning curve, so till people get used to the system, but access wasn't an issue.
Both ways, whether
Yes.
you want to be a host country or whether you want a worker from Malta to go somewhere else. Both ways it worked well,
Yes.
okay? So the procedures were smooth.
Yes.
And your experience of the procedures when they were installed, it all worked with all the officialdom that there was within Malta itself?
In what sense?
It fitted in with everything that the government was doing in Malta. There was no problem with having a different system there.
Well, it's a new system, so we had to get used to it. In that sense, it was, as I said, a learning curve till you get used to a new system which sort of shifts the burden, as you would say, onto the home member state. But as soon as you got used to it, it was actually okay. We could move with it, and it functioned well.
Okay. Gloria, in Spain, can you give us some sort of indication of the scale of the EPC in Spain?
Yeah, sure. Spain is a bigger country than Malta, so we have more applications. We have opened as a home country. We have opened 390 applications, EPC applications. That means that it's 15% of the total amount of EPC through Europe. We are the second country opening EPC applications. That means that we are still migration donor country. But on the other hand, as a host country, we have received as well a big amount of EPC applications. It's around 7% of the total amount, and is more or less 160 applications, EPC applications.
Which professions are using it most?
Definitely physiotherapists. According to the last official statistics, as a home country, we have opened 60% of applications for physiotherapists, 20% for nurses. And as a host country, 44% for physios and 35% for nurses.
And how did you integrate it with the Spanish system? Was that problematic or straightforward?
It's not very problematic, but in fact we are now running both systems in parallel. We haven't built a gateway, so we have the old system and the IMI EPC system running in parallel. We have to maintain our old system because of the Spanish laws oblige us to keep the final decision signed by the Ministry of Health or the person who acts on her behalf for at least 5 years. So we have to keep that in our files. But I think that there's no major problem working with the two systems.
Before I take some questions from the floor, I hope soon, I wanted to ask you about the timescale in dealing with the procedures. Can you give me some sort of indication about the timescale?
Well, if the professional upload all the documents needed, we could check and approve and send the application in just 1 day. But this is an exception, of course. But it is an exception as well to spend 3 months in an application. Let's say that a normal time scale is 1 month or so.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty quick. Pretty quick.
I think so.
Is that the experience of those of you in the audience? Does that resonate, what you've heard from Malta and from Spain? Any thoughts so far or questions you'd like to ask the team about what they've said? Do you find it simple to integrate it with the systems already in your country? Do you find that the timescale is about a month? You find there is interest from the professional bodies and that there is a take-up from the professional bodies within your countries? Are there any tricky bits at the moment about using it online, or is it fairly simple? Any immediate feedback you would like to give to the Commission about it, about facing the challenges? We can move the microphones around. Good. One there, please. Thank you. Anybody else? And we'll get the microphones to you in a moment. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for your explanation. It was very clear. I'm Filipa Marques from Portugal. I'm the legal representative from the Portuguese Dental Association and also representing here the National Council of the 16 liberal professions in Portugal. Since we are talking about addressing the challenges of this professional card, I believe you all know that dental profession, I will now focus a little bit on dental profession for dentists. This professional card has not been implemented. One of our main doubts is what could be the best channel to implement this card, what kind of procedures some profession who hasn't been implemented this card has to go through, if these first steps are or not simple for any competent authority. In Portugal, all the 16 liberal professions are self-regulated. We have some sort of sui generis model because we have this self-regulation which is delegated by the states, Portuguese states, into the professional organizations. So we are all so-called competent authorities.
But we know that at the moment it only applies to 5 professions. There are no plans to extend it at the moment. So we're just bearing that in mind, that you want things to be clarified very early on. Should it be expanded?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let me turn to Heinrich May. Heinrich is representing regional government in Germany. Now, your experience is not quite as smooth as I understand it.
Yes, hello everybody. I come from Bavaria, and they're a federal region called Upper Palatine. We are also competent authority, and I'm coordinator for whole of Bavaria. And I have met with several authorities working with, and they have problems. The first problem of all is that they work as usual, and no one or a small one of them are convinced or are addressing to work with IMI. They work as usual. That's what they learned from bottom up. They work with papers. And the new system is not for them. So hello everybody, it's nice. They work with paper and they work as usual. So we have to, it's my job, and it's also a national coordinated job and EU Commission job, to convince them to use the new system. And that's what we are working for. And they don't work with it when they see, oh, nice to have, and a smooth YouTube video. We have to convince them with some pressure. And the pressure has to come from legal, from ministries, from higher authorities, but also from the Verbände, I don't know the word in English, I'm sorry, the physiotherapists and the nurses, organizations, that the people use them. So we have also, for me, a lack of information. I had some slides, maybe
They are ready, yes, okay. They're ready for you when you're ready.
I'll show you some slides from my ideas for this morning. First, we had, it's for me. I worked 4 years ago. I worked for in an authority, and I handled and dealt with allowances for nurses, for medicines, and so I have personal experience and know what the people do when, before they had to work with IMI. And so we had not cleared a long time, and for many people not yet, what are the benefits of the EPC and what not. What does the EPC mean and what not? And that's the first and the most important question for me, and I only could clear it after EPC started, and it was a little bit too late. The EPC means only the recognition of the equivalence of the qualification. The equivalence, and it means not the, at least in Germany, I don't know how it is in other countries, but I think it's similar in some countries, not the still necessary for exercise. For example, authorization to practice as a pharmacist, the Approbation, we call in Germany. Not the authorization to keep the professional title as a nurse or a physiotherapist. Is this the necessary document to work in Germany? Especially to only sign yourself as a nurse, but no one allows you in a hospital to work without the professional the authorization to keep the professional title.
So, Heinrich, there's been a change of mindset that you've had to challenge in Germany. Now, what support do you have in delivering that? Do you get that from your national government? Do you get that from the Commission?
Yes, I get some informations, and we worked with it. Not in the 18th of January, we needed sometimes, but it will come. We had a special problem in Germany that we had for some months no national coordinator. It was the worst case at that time, but now we have one and it works good. And so we get the information, but we get much more information from the IMI coordinators, but not from the legal federal and the state ministries from the specially legal areas. They aren't convinced and that convince us.
So within the German authorities, there has to be more application, more concentration on delivering this.
Yes.
And that would help you.
Yes, indeed.
Is that a familiar picture to any of you in the audience about your own countries? The difficulties about turning round the governmental bodies within your own countries to accepting EPC? Any thoughts about that? Any questions you would like to ask Heinrich or the others about it so far? Do speak up. Yep, lady there. We can get the microphone there, would be great. Anybody else while we're moving the microphones around? Gentleman at the back as well, thank you. Okay, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. Ines Esture, I'm National Coordinator from Latvia. And I wanted to thank you for this slide because it's exactly we face in Latvia. Legal documents sometimes are written in this high level legal texts and this it's are not easily understandable for people, and what it mean and what it doesn't mean, it is exactly what we have to translate to persons dealing with these applications, also in competent authorities and also for professionals. It is what is necessary also to provide more clear such information for people to understand what it means. Yeah.
So where do you want the information from? Do you want it from your own government authorities or do you want it from the Commission?
I suppose it concerns general system, and it should be coming from Commission because it's a general rules established for EPC, and it could be introduced in general information system. Okay. It's standardized information.
It's the legal requirements that are causing a bit of a problem for you in Latvia.
But it is descriptive information how this EPC works and what it means, and it should be more clear. And this type of information provided here, it's missing in description and also in this video record of coming from Commission, and it is very useful would be. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Gentlemen at the back, please. Can you speak up a bit more?
Yes, of course. My name is Lukas Mülling. I'm from the competent authority of North Rhine-Westphalia for recognition of the nurses, and our experience are different, like the college has mentioned, because we make the experience that the Ministry of North Rhine-Westphalia is very motivated to inform of everything it deals with the EPC, and Mrs. Knisevich of the government of Germany is also very motivated. I think the problem is that the professionals do not know about the EPC, or they don't trust their electronic system. So that there are no content or less content is a problem of the professionals, not of the government, I think. And we do not change to paper content when there's an EPC. We, of course, work with the content, with the electronic content, of course. So we have made a different experience in North Rhine-Westphalia. I think it deals very good, but of course there are some problems they have to, that we have to find a solution.
Thank you. Gloria, we've heard some people talk about the difficulties of getting the professional bodies to know and to trust the EPC. How did you manage to do that successfully in Spain?
Well, we don't have any problem, as far as I know, with the professional bodies, because we are working together. We have held some meetings regularly and work closely. They are doing exactly the same that they doing before. They are in charge of issuing certificates of good standing for professionals living in Spain, and registration certificates for professionals coming to work into Spain, and this is exactly what they do in the old system. So for us, as far as I know, as I said, there's no difference. They have, the professional bodies have accepted the system easily and without problems.
There must be some form then of professional compulsion that has to be delivered, Heinrich. How do you go about that? I know it's early stages, it's only 1 year in, everything is changing, developments can happen quite quickly in due course, but to get this professional compulsion, how do you go about that?
We have to inform and to convince the colleagues over there. Maybe in some areas it functions better, like North Rhine-Westphalia. But when I look at the numbers of the EPC applications in Germany, I'm not really convinced that it works as good as it should be. This week I get the information about the EPC application of Germany, and when I see that Germany as home authority has 280 applications, it's a number that's okay for me, but on the other side we have only 16 EPC applications as a host. And that's for me a thing that I imagine it can't really can be a sign of the reality, because Germany is the biggest country in the European Union, and we have to be the biggest host member state. And when we have only 16 applications as a host, there's something that doesn't function. So we need, especially for me, this clearance, also what I wanted to add here, the delimitation to the certificate of good standing. It's a necessary document for health professions, and here we have to be clear. And so here I have challenges, knowledge on homepages of health ministries and the professional associations. And the only, when I use Google, the only source that really functions and has really good information in German is this one. It's only one source, and that's too less.
One source on the internet alone.
Yeah, internet.
It's very small. But Danielle, when you looked at Malta, it took off quite quickly in Malta. Obviously, you're not dealing with something on the scale of Germany, but whatever has happened in Malta, it's worked successfully.
Well, it took some time. It didn't take off immediately. I think it took a good 3-4 months before we actually got on with it. But as with Gloria, our competent authorities simply do it's a similar process to the traditional recognition system, and they just follow it. As I said, there were issues to learn the system because obviously it's a learning curve, but they adopted it and work with it. the issue really is with the applicants, because they seem to confuse matters. You'll get them applying for both at the same time, both the traditional and the electronic, or they would apply for the EPC, then abandon it. Or you'll have test cases where you'll have somebody with the wrong home member state, with the wrong profession, just trying it out. So there were a few of those, not a lot, just a few. But as I said, as time went on, each one was a learning curve, each one was a learning experience, and as we go along, it gets smoother and smoother.
Thank you very much. Let's take some more contributions from the floor. If you'd like to put any questions to the panelists that you've heard from, or talk about your own experience of using it and getting the professional bodies on board. This is the problem that Heinrich has found in his part of Germany in particular. Does that resonate? Does that make me think, or make you think, I recognise that sort of situation? How did you get round it? What help would you like in getting round the obstacles or the challenges that appear? So any hands, do pop them up, and we will take any contributions from the floor. Any thoughts you want to ask about the timescales, implementation? Nothing yet? Okay, we'll come back to you in a moment. Let's turn to Roland. Now, Roland, you are working with physiotherapists. That is your profession. And the physiotherapy world has grasped the EPC. Why do you think that's happened? When we looked at all the charts at the beginning of the morning, physiotherapy was the one that came out with most applicants.
Yes, indeed. We represent actually more or less 500,000 of physiotherapists in Europe, and we are the 4th mobile profession in the European scenario, with a special focus on temporal mobility, as you've seen the numbers already. And we try to promote the highest standards of professional practice in Europe. And it was in the interest for everybody that the EPC fulfills all the necessary requirements, especially for patient safety, in respect of professionals applying for recognition of the title. Now, besides previous involvement by collaborating with the EU Commission that we have been doing since 2010-11, in the focus of the revision of the directive, we wanted also this tool, to be successful, and our role could be compacted in 3 main tasks. We also especially disseminated as much as we could the information about the EPC, and secondly, we tried to support our member organizations by providing, or individual physiotherapists, by providing information on the process. And we try to solve the problems by communicating with the Commission when they surged, of course, for meeting the previous mentioned requirements. And third of all, we identified what should be improved after the year of the use, and that's why we're here.
And you can see there is a huge amount of interest, and look at the numbers that we are dealing with when it comes to physiotherapy EPC applications.
Yes, I isolated some numbers. You have already seen them before. We are embracing the EPC the most in Europe. That means actually that we fulfill our mentioned role by promoting it, and however, we need to put some numbers into a context. So as I said, 500,000 physios. In total, we had 2,598 applications, and about 999 were physiotherapists, representing 38.5. Now, if you could show the next slide.
Pass the, Heinrich, can you just pass the, yeah, there we are.
Thank you. Should be like this. Then we see that from the total issued EPCs in 2015, from where 337 were physiotherapists, meaning a 33.2 of the issued are physiotherapists. So the ratio is similar, but if we look closer to the picture, only 39 of the total applicants have been successful. And when you look into for the case of physiotherapists, the numbers are actually lower. The ratio was 33.73. So that means that there is a need for things to improve, we think. Now, additionally, I have some numbers from the mobility that we put into the top 5 application by the home member states, we see that actually Spain indeed is one of the highest, followed by Italy, Poland, the UK, and Germany. And when we look at by the host member state, then we come up with the highest rate of the UK, France, Ireland, Spain again, and then Germany. So that's a little bit of a few of the top rankings.
What services do they contact, though, if there are issues? And can you give advice on professional problems where must there be good cooperation, for example?
Well, the organization is trying to solve the questions when contacted, as I said, with the support of the Commission. And the issues and problems that we have knowledge of can be grouped as follows in about 5 categories. And it confirms also the survey that the results of the survey at some point it matches exactly what we are talking about. Delays of passing the information from the home member state or to the host member state or vice versa. And this would extend the deadlines to the maximum to give answers. That's what we see. What are the reasons? Probably because of the process is still new, or there is a lack of resources by the member states. That's a possibility. And then one problem that was mentioned also already is about the complications with translations and the related costs. So there is also a difference between the meaning of certified and authorized translations from one member state to another. It's quite unclear, especially for an applicant. It's not quite easy to understand. And beside of the cost of the translations, there's also the cost of the whole procedure. In some cases, when you combine this could be really a serious burden. There's the case of the false true. So, and we know at least of one case that one day the card was approved and a few hours later was revoked. We found that quite strange. It's a problem that needs to be solved or examined. And 2 more quite important points. The 4th point is non-listed information of all documents required. That's we heard already today. More documents are required in the 2nd stage. Once the applicant is started, and you see that some documents all of a sudden needed to be added to the application. We are not against the proper verification, let's be clear about that. We, in fact, support it for patient safety, but it should be actually there from the beginning, the requested documents. And there are also some questions of misunderstandings. People don't really understand, as my colleague Henrik mentioned before, is the European Certificate of Current Professional Status. What does it really mean? Proof of experience. What is it? What is it really in that context? And then also the requirement of professional liability insurance. And that is actually also related. Is it necessary before or during the application, or just after when you're at work?
Okay.
So there's a clear...
Some of these points we look at in much more detail in the 2nd panel, which is discussing improving the actual mechanism and the application process. But you've drawn attention to them, and we will bear those in mind very much as we continue throughout the day. Trust is very important, Roland, as well, between the authorities, wouldn't you say? I want to bring up this question of trust because it seems to be that trust is what generates the sorts of results that we need. And we need this trust between authorities. With physiotherapy, it looks from the results that the trust has been established pretty well.
Well, there are still issues to be solved, as we heard already today. Which the day is still young, but you already see that there is problems to be solved. We fully understand that the process is still new. And it is consuming resources for the member states. We're pretty sure about that. But there is still a need for optimization. The different levels of full implementation between member states make the EPC system still incomplete, and there is still indeed a gap of trust in that's what we also see. For example, we've been informed by the French colleagues that the procedure of the transposition is still incomplete. The French State Journal published it on 20 January, only 2017. So that's only 1 year after it was into implementation. And it still needs to be ratified by the Parliament, the French Parliament. So therefore, full implementation in France is not optimized or not existing
So that is
as
obviously
least as a
holding-
home member state.
And
I would
that's
say.
holding up,
Yeah.
because states seem to be moving at different rates, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Is this creating problems and challenges for you in the audience, the way that the member states move at different rates, or elements of trust between the various authorities that you feel needs to be established better, and how you would go about that? Any advice, any thoughts, any questions? It's really important that the Commission hears from you, because this is their chance to get the feedback that they need. Any hands going up? Yeah, gentleman there, thank you. Anybody else? We can move the microphones around the room. Okay, go ahead.
My question is very simple. Do you think...
Sorry, I didn't catch that. You can say who you are and where you're...
sorry, yeah. I'm Gerardo Arroyo. I'm the legal advisor of the Spanish Council for Industrial Engineers. My question is very simple. Do you think the other professions, or the card is ready for other professions?
Well, I know that the Commission doesn't want to go into the other professions just at the moment. We were really going to stick to the 5 that we have and a review of how it's working for those 5 at the moment. Until those are well established, the Commission can't possibly go on to introduce it anywhere else. And that's the finding. So the conference is very much concentrating on, up to now, what are the challenges and how have they been delivered? In your experience, what would you say to that?
I don't know. It's my... I wanted to know.
You're still finding out. Okay. Anybody else that wants to raise a point about how the year has been going as far as they're concerned? Yeah. Gentleman in the front, Marek. Thank you.
Thank you. Marek Szewczyński. I also represent the professions that are not yet covered by the EPC. I'm from the Polish Professional Self-Government of Medical Doctors and Dentists from the Supreme Chamber. I have a question. We've heard some figures before that we had 2,500 more or less applications during this year. We had about 1,000 issued EPCs, so we could say successful applications. Mr. Fron said that there are a number of reasons why some of the applications are not completed by issuance of the EPC. I have a question to anyone who can answer. Could you give us some more details why more than 50% of these applications are not successful? The EPC is not finally issued. And do you have any idea whether this ratio of successful applications and unsuccessful applications under the EPC is comparable to the same ratio under the traditional recognition procedure? So my question is basically, is it because the applicants do not meet certain requirements, which it might be the same under the traditional way, or is it something to do with this new procedure which is still developing? Thank you.
Who would like to come back to that? Gloria, would you?
Why not? Oh, sorry. We have detected, for example, that some applicants apply for 2 or 3 or more countries, and when they get one EPC, they abandon the rest, for example. And as well, some applications are frozen because the applicants don't present all the relevant documents, and they are still, well, forever for 2 or 3 months, and they renounce to abandon the application. Those 2 cases are examples, but I suppose there are more different experiences.
Can you tell me about tacit recognition, Gloria, and how that happens and where it happens, and the implications and challenges for that?
Yeah, tacit EPC for us is a really nightmare, I would say. Yeah, I think tacit EPC, in my view, is not working at all. We have we have a problem with a specific country that has tacit approval by timer in more than 50 cases, and that's the consequences for us severe, and it's a problem because the professional has spent a lot of time uploading documents. The competent authority have to check all these documents, but as the deadlines expires, the EPC is, the application is validated without the intervention of the host country, and after that time, the EPC is issued tacitly. And the fact is that when the professional goes with his or her EPC to the professional body to be registered, the thing is that is not accepted at all. It's not respected, and it's asked to start the procedure from scratch all over again, and this time in a traditional way. So,
okay, so you've had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Is that a problem that somebody else in the audience or anyone else in the audience would draw attention to as well? Yeah, gentleman at the back. Is that you again? Yep. Thank you.
Excuse me, my name is Lukas Schmülling, Competent Youth Authority of North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. I have a problem with the physiotherapist and the documents I want to tell something about. Our biggest problem is how many documents the physiotherapists are needed to bring to us, so that we have to control which content the trainee has in the host state. And I think this is the most problem why the physiotherapists' contents are so difficult for us, because of the missing of the automatic recognition. If the physiotherapist would be automatic recognition or able for automatic recognition, it would be very easier. So I think you have done great work, and other professionals can look how you have made it, that the professionals are informed of the EPC, but this is a profession, we have a lot of problems with the documents. So this is the reason why some EPCs are not approved, because of missing documents for the content.
A comment back about that, Roland?
Well, yes, we know that physiotherapy doesn't fall into the automatic system like the doctors and the nurses in general system. It's a profession that falls under the general system, which has been evaluated case by case, as you know. So we tried in the past, and we try to implement the common training, the common platform in the past, and I think maybe in the future it would be a solution to either go to the common training principles or test. But that is maybe for a long future and not for today's discussion, I think.
Or he can catch you at lunchtime. Roland, thank you very much for that. I want to bring in, I'll come to you in just a moment. I want to bring in Alberto, because we haven't talked about mountain guides yet, and I want to know how the application processes have been going for mountain guides, because this is a profession characterized by very high mobility.
Yeah, I represent the IFPGA, the International Federation of Mountain Guide Associations. We are really happy and how it's going EPC in a certain way, and I have to say that I'm really proud and a bit like that you had a picture about what represents EPC as a summit, a climber sharing the summit of a mountain. So that gives you really the importance for us, and I am happy that the European Commission understood this. I come from Trieste, a town near Slovenia and Österreich, Kärnten border. In a same day, you can be in 3 countries working. So for us, EPC, mostly temporary, as the graph has shown, it's really important. And I have to say that compared to around 4,000, a bit more mountain guides in European mountain guides, we have 500 requests of EPC, so more than 10%. The forecast is quite good. I mean, we think that in 1 year, we'll have even 1,000 EPC requests. So, by the way, it's good. You know, mountain guides usually you work with a rope in the hands, an ice axe in the hands, skis on the boots, on the feet. So it means that they are not super used to use this system, but they are getting used. That's really important.
But some applications, I understand, are more complex than others, particularly when it comes to health and safety.
They are, yes, but you know, I think so. Our job is particular. Health and public safety is really important. So I think so. It's something that the mountain guides has to be used. For sure, automatic recognition will be really a good goal for us. I mean, for the European Commission, and will get us good help. So I think so. We have to work in both sides. Mountain guides have to understand what's important for the countries they visit, and maybe European Commission can help us to make this automatic recognition, which make it easier to get the card quite fast.
Sorry, explain that in a bit more depth, what you would like the Commission to do.
Well, we found mostly problems, maybe in some countries in which the authority, the national authority, its competent authority didn't really understand what's EPC. So we need some help mostly in the East countries. And also a small but quite important problem, it's also the fees. I mean, as I said, you might be in one day visiting 3 countries, or 2 countries for sure, can be easy. So fees are really, there are really gaps between the countries. Can be really...
You would like to see more uniformity.
Exactly, uniformity.
More uniformity
for sure.
in the
and
fees.
some help for sure in some countries with, again, mostly European countries that they don't have this authority understood well.
So do you feel that you've said what your main issues are facing mountain guides? Anything else that you would add?
Well, mostly, you know, of the visiting countries, host countries are the Alps countries. So, you know, that's quite important to understand. And I have to say they're doing quite well as a, you know, income guides, the Alps countries. So we don't complain about that. Again, I think so mostly can be to make understand the authority competent of the country, member of the EU, that mountain guides are really important and they need this EPC working really well and fast. Fast, it's quite okay at the moment in most of the countries, but maybe can be done a bit better.
Alberto, thank you for the moment. Hashtag professional card is our Twitter feed. Don't forget to add to that or to read it as well. Is Irena Linke here from Austria? Irena? Yeah, there we are. Irena, I know you want to come in about mountain guides because I wanted to ask you about, does it live up to cross-border recognition and cooperation?
Yes, thank you. We are a host country, naturally. We are one of the renowned Alpine countries. And our special problem is we are a federal country and mountain guides are a competence of our Bundesländer. And as it's clear for a federal country, we do not have the same law in every land because then it would not have a sense to have this regional legislation. And we have a different situation in our Bundesländer that we have no EPC for 2 Bundesländer. We have an EPC without prior check of qualification in 4 Bundesländer. And we have 3 Bundesländer who make this prior check of qualification. And I've heard that there sometimes was a discussion about the territorial validity. And at least these 3 Bundesländer who make this prior check of qualification are asking for a EPC in procedure in their region.
So how do you get all the different areas, all the different regions to follow the same pattern? Can you force them to do that? I mean, Heinrich was talking about the problems that there were in Germany when you're dealing with things on a federal level. Can you force them?
We have absolutely no competence to force them. They are independent legislators and authorities. We can only try to convince them and find practical solution, which I think the authorities are very prepared to. And they're also in contact with the mountain guides, with the Mountain Guides Association, and I can also offer to give the contact dates, especially of the 3 provinces, which do this prior check of qualification, that we can do this bilaterally for example, to find a practical solution for the day-to-day business.
Okay, sounds familiar to you, doesn't it, Heinrich? Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Like we have in Germany with all of the 5 professions. We have almost 3 ministries in the federal states, and we have almost 3 ministries in each of the 16 Bundesländer. And so you can think about how it depends where do you go to.
Okay. Anybody else recognizing that sort of picture from the area that they work in? They want to contribute? I know there was somebody down at the back that I didn't get to a few minutes ago. Yes, there we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret McCann from the Nursing and Midwifery Board in Ireland. I'm bringing the discussion back because I have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask Gloria. I was interested when you said you had a problem with tacit recognitions and up to, did I hear you right, 30 or 50 applications from one member state where the documentation probably wasn't properly verified and Spain had to give recognition? Was that, can you tease that out a little bit more for me? And then I have a second question for you, and it's if you could tell me what percentage of EPCs are relative to your total process during the year, your total number of registrations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Well, related to the first one, tacit EPC issued is nothing to do with documents incomplete. It has to do with a country that doesn't control the application, that hasn't implemented the application. So the whole file is running without intervention of the host country, and it's been approval tacitly, it's been issued tacitly without any intervention of the host country. So we, as home country, we check all the documents, they are complete, they fulfill all the requirements, and they are, as I say, complete. But then the country hasn't given any attention to the files, don't consider the files at all. I mean, they don't do anything. They don't implement the EPC system.
So with the consequence of what? The EPC is issued without checks, or what happens consequently? What's the result?
The EPC is issued and checked by the home country, and is issued because the time is expiring, the deadline is up, and then the professional gets the EPC, but that EPC is not considered valid by this country. So that is not a problem of incomplete documents, or it's not a fault of the applicant, it's a fault of the host country.
And that host country, is this one country we're talking about, or many countries?
No, yes, one country.
One country? Are we going to name that country?
Well, why not? It's France.
France, okay.
Yeah. But France has not implemented, has not transposed totally the directive, but Spain has not either. But nevertheless, we are implemented EPC. I think it's possible, having not transposed the directive, but implemented EPC system.
Okay. Anybody else with experience about this or concerns about this? Hand going up over there. Anybody else? We can move microphone. Hand there as well. Okay. 2 people. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Maja Grašić. I'm from Slovenia, National Coordinator. And if I can come back to the mountain guides and just to express that we do also have some problems with the countries that have different territorial validity of the EPC card. And as much as EPC is something new and does make something good for the professionals, that is something that is quite a big step down from the added value that could be there. So we would also like to express that view that the validity of the EPC card should be something that the Commission should have in question or in mind in the later stages.
Okay, thank you. And a point from down there.
Yes, I'm Laurie Bergia from the French Ministry of Economy, so I feel kind of obliged to jump in the conversation. I just wanted to say that we are very aware of this problem for the tacit recognition, especially for the health professions, and it's a problem we are trying to solve with the competent authorities and especially with the ministry responsible for all these professions. So we hope we will find a correct solution in the months to come.
Can I ask you a follow-up question about that? In your experience, where do the obstacles lie, and how are you going to change people's minds or to motivate them to carry out what you want to do?
Well, from what I understand, the problem comes more from the professional organizations. They are a bit concerned by the fact that maybe not all as there is some health and security implications, they are a bit concerned about if the control has been effective, and it's...
So they're concerned about the standards.
Yeah.
They're concerned about professional standards, and so therefore reluctant to
recognize the EPC tacitly.
We've got to turn around the professional bodies in France.
Yeah.
And how can we do that? Now, not just simply a matter of the French authorities, I presume, but do you need help from further afield?
Well, actually, from now we have been we have met some of this organization, and we are trying to make them understand that they have to recognize these cards. So I hope that after a few, we are trying to write some instructions to oblige them to recognize these cards. So hopefully in a few months it will be.
So hopefully in a few months, that's the time scale you see on that.
Yeah.
Is that? Do you think that's going to make progress, Gloria? Are you optimistic? Not really.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope.
Well,
the problem is the system is being viewed with great distrust by the professionals, on the part of the professionals, because they upload a lot of documents, we check them, and at the end of the day is frustrating.
Okay. The question of trust came up a little earlier in our session as well. If there are any questions or comments you'd like to make about that in particular, pop your hand up. We've got 3-4 minutes. Microphone there, please. Thank you. I've got 3 or 4 minutes before we finish. So let's draw it all together. And if you want to summarize the challenges that you feel that we've been facing and that we're able to overcome, do let us know. Okay, last few minutes of this discussion.
Hi, my name is Caroline Turgels from the International Federation of Podiatrists and the Belgium Association of Podiatrists too. I have a question for the mountain guides, and maybe it's a link with the trust also. I thought, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you were working on common training framework. And is the common training framework and the work you've done there, does it have a positive impact on delivering the EPC?
Yeah, I mean, usually I represent again the IFMGA, so the type of qualification, it's equivalence, so there's equivalence qualification that's quite good, and so it's not just, so usually the competent authority recognize the IFMGA diploma, so that's why it makes it easier, so the recognition. So that's not main issue. It means that if you're not IFMEJ member, but you're still mountain guide, you can make the request about APC. That's still true, but mostly of the mountain guides, you at least are under this type of same qualification. That's quite important for us. It makes it easy.
Okay. Closing comments, Heinrich?
I wanted to say three short things. First, to the mountain guides, let me show you the difficulties in Germany. We have 16 Bundesländer, one federal state, and we have only one Alps, which are high enough for climbing. And so we have one authority in Bavaria, and she isn't allowed, so she says in the ministry in Bavaria, she isn't allowed to work as a home member state for a person who lives in Berlin. So we need an authority in Berlin who works with mountain guides, but they don't have mountains, and so they have no experience. And so we need a process for this. The second, to the point of view from Poland, how it works how the implications, the problems. And I want to say something for our authorities. When we are host authority in Germany, the authority works. And so we have small applications, only 16, but we have under less than 10% which gets no application. So we need time, not the short time of the timeless schedule, some weeks longer, some months longer, but it works. And so the authorities, they do, but they have to convince. And at least it works when we bring closer together the IMI people and the people from the other legal areas. They have to work closer, I think, here in Brussels, in Berlin, and in the other areas.
Okay, thank you. Roland, any closing comment you would make?
Well, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I think we need to prioritize the European Professional Card for the moment for those 5 professions, see what comes out, and we're very interested to see the outcome. And of course, we would like to collaborate on this and to disseminate more information if we see that's necessary. To get this really a successful tool.
Okay, any more from the floor before we finish? Okay, Danielle, do you want to give your closing comment?
Well, actually, I would say that possibly the applicants need to be better informed as well, because many, from what I'm hearing, that many applications fall by the wayside because of misinformation. So possibly there is improvement there.
Thank you. And Gloria?
Well, in my view, there is still some room for improvement, even in the related to the tool itself. This is something that we are going to comment later on. And I think on the other hand, I think that we should trust the system. It's the system of all of us, and I would like to encourage everybody to implement it and to keep on the track.
Panel, thank you very much for your contributions today. That's been very helpful in addressing all the challenges. We're going to stop now for coffee for 30 minutes, and we will resume at 11:45, and we will look at improving the system, improving the documents that are asked for, the language and so on. So thank you very much for your attention this morning. Thank you. I know I didn't bring you in for ages, but I wanted to do it, and that's